I will show you how to make easily rhythmic groovy grids like this. So I was jamming and I thought, okay, this is actually really nice for a tutorial. So what I usually do if I kind of like build grids is that I determine like a rhythm. So for example, I make a rhythm here with some synthesizer, and then I replace parts of the rhythm with samples, or kind of like reconstruct the whole rhythm with different samples. So let me quickly play the section, then you will see how it sounds at the moment. Yeah, but it's quite static, so that's not so nice in my opinion, because you want to make it a little bit more, not random, but kind of like keep the rhythm, but fill it up with like different elements. And now comes the problem. If you have your user library here, and you have some packs in there, so for example, let's take here from West Galaxy, then you see like most of those have keys in here, and this track is in F sharp, and so you never really know how it sounds like once it's in the right key, and that makes it really problematic in my opinion. Also, it plays always the whole loop, and you need to like trigger it with the mouse exactly, and I haven't actually found like a really cool way to do that besides with Loopcloud, which I actually use for all my intros and everything. So usually I kind of like select sounds from Loopcloud, which I then put into the track. But you can abuse Loopcloud and load your own stuff in there. And then, for example, filter it by Psytrance and effects and the artist where you have the pack from. And then you just have, for example, these kind of sounds which you can put in there. But there comes the catch, and I never did that because I was so lazy and I still haven't done it fully. You need to go here into show in my library, and then you will see like the pack here, and you need to kind of like tag them. So it gets auto tagged, but the auto tagging isn't good enough to really determine, for example, that this is like effects or zaps. So you need to kind of like organize it in a way that you can later find exactly the elements you want. You don't need to kind of like put every single element here, but you could, for example, take the whole folder here, select everything, and then you can put in here Psytrance and the artist name, for example, and that already makes it much more simple. And then you can go down into the folders, and those, for example, have been already auto tagged really well, but those here I added the tag Zap, I think, or didn't I? Yeah, might be. I put effects and I think I put Zap, but if I haven't, I can show you quickly. It's like this. You just put Zap here, and then it usually adds it. I think it just shows like a bunch of them, so that's why. But that's how you do it, and it goes quicker than you think. You could kind of like do this with your whole user library, maybe like in half an hour or an hour, and I will do that definitely after the video more complete. And then you can actually go into your user library and go for effects, Psytrance, Zap, for example, and you just have your zaps which you have tagged. So for now we will just go here with the pack and effects and remove the zaps, and then we have basically all these shots here. And it would be also good if you kind of like divide it into like single shots or loops. But anyway, now comes the actual jamming part, and I will show you how easy this gets, because now you can lock in the key here, and as you see, it detects the key on most samples, and it warps the samples also in the right BPM once you connect it here to your DAW. And that makes it so much easier to kind of like just jam with samples and build grids and cool rhythms and stuff. So let's do that. So in order to play your samples at the right pitch, you need to hit C3 on your keyboard. So C3 is kind of like the neutral tone for like sampler, simpler, and the Loopcloud. So whenever you hit C3, the sample will get played in the original pitch, or if you have activated the lock pitch and there is a key here on the side, it will transpose your sample, which is really nice. Also, it will have the right BPM. If there is a BPM here, so not everything is detected right, and to be honest, I won't make the effort to tag every single sample here. Maybe if you kind of like have samples which you really like and have added to favorites, then maybe you want to add more of those information stuff here. But for now, I think if you just put in like effects, Psytrance, and the kind of like the artist name, that's fair enough for jamming. But I want to show you a little bit more because it's a bit annoying. Let's say if you have made your sequence here in F sharp, the key of my track here, and then you put it down and you need to transpose it each time. So C3 from F sharp, and F sharp 2 I play most things, is like 6 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you wanna basically go from F sharp to 6 semitones up, and then you add C3. And how we're gonna do this? We just put like a pitch plugin here, and as you can see, it plays it nicely in C3, which then goes into Loopcloud, and Loopcloud will pitch it to F sharp if there is a pitch information on the sample. Then we have our sample nice in F sharp, and if you don't want to have that and you just want to play it still original, you can just turn the lock. So how did I get this rhythm down here? I just took any sample to start with, which wasn't too complex, like an FM. You can also take a synth here and then just jam along until you have the rhythm, but obviously we don't want to find only one sample, we want to find multiple samples. And actually I already started this here, so I already have selected the Zap, and I will activate it for now. And once you found the sample, you just go in here and you mute this. So that was the first sample we found. And for the rest, I will take you with me on a journey here. So this one could be nice. So we just look at the starting position here. We can just add like another effects layer here. You just put a sample here, and you notice the sample itself has a rhythm, but it gets kind of like restarted all the time. And by the way, you need to put a warp off because it warps it strangely again. But let's say we have it here, then the sample would basically start here again, and here again. And we can see if we like that or not. And I would suggest you to put like a hotkey here, so you can just turn it off and see how it behaves. Let's keep this. Also the sample, you see, it's not like 100%ly warped correctly, so we will see what happens. And here we might want to only... Yeah, that could be nice. Let's see if we place that here. So let's say you want to only play this every second time, because this feels more like a closure thing. So I would put it more towards the end. So let's say we put those off here. So the first ones we put off, and we want to look for another sample here. Then we could duplicate this and then still look for something which we place here. So that easy, you can basically reactivate it and adapt it. And you could also only play this maybe once here and then like split the MIDI and kind of only remove it here. So you have many options to design this and make your MIDI still playable. But let's continue a bit. You can also look like this through the samples. Sometimes it's nice to just like preview them without everything. That could be maybe nice. So if you have an idea from previewing, we could also go in here and just maybe create another thing here. So maybe like this. And you can also preview it in here. But it doesn't really fit its aggressive section and this atmosphere. I think it will be too weak for that. And what's cool is you can put effects as well on here. So we could say, okay, maybe we want to have one which is already like having a strong delay on it. Could be nice. And some loops are like a little bit longer. They are hard to play then if you have the short set. You could also like just listen to them like this. So let's place that one and let's see. If that would be cool or not, and in which position. Yeah, I think that could be nice. Maybe not repeated too often. More like here. You see, it's basically the other part of that one. So we just place it in here, and then we have already some more elements. So now we just need to remove this one here. And we found one more. Another little thing you can try if you don't want to kind of like get conflicts in the rhythm so that stuff overlaps too much, is that you make the notes legato. So basically you need to at least put like the silent ones in here, and then you can just go in here and put legato, and now your samples will at least play the lengths here. So we can try that quickly. So here, for example, you don't always need to stick to the rhythm here. Maybe you can also make this one shot. It doesn't need to be super square, at least as it established kind of like a sense of rhythm, not complete randomness. I think everything is kind of like in the playbook. I think that's pretty cool because we have here the low sound and then like the high one answering. Little thing which I want to mention here is because we always put like the beginning of the sample in here, but you should kind of like take the time also sometimes to scan a bit through the sample, because usually a lot of long loops increase in pitch. And for example, here on this Zaps, which I placed in the end here, I wanted to have like a higher pitch here, especially in the drum roll. So I didn't start with the beginning of the sample. I just looked in the sample what would be a nice starting point. It wasn't even going with the loop like from here. It starts here and then repeats over here. So that's something you should always consider, because all this kind of like simpler samplers, Loopcloud, just play your sample from the beginning. So take the time sometimes to look through the sequences and the loops if you find a better spot, because once you have found the rhythm, which you can do easily with a synthesizer as explained, and you have found the sound, then it's just about kind of like the expression of the sound, like the modulation and all the kind of like parameters you will find in that sequence. And those sequences tend to repeat usually, so it's fairly easy to scan through them. Just loop like a part and move the loop a little bit around and you will find the best part. And I don't want to bore you. I will finish this here and I will play you the result and you will see how the whole thing kind of like came together. So if you want to start now making your own grids, you can download Loopcloud. I will put a link down in the description. It's an affiliate link. I didn't get sponsored by them, but it helps me to support the channel and you will pay exactly the same for the subscription. I don't know if you can download it without subscription. In all the versions, you could download the VST without the subscription, but I think they changed it, but still it's an amazing investment into your music. I use it every day and there's so many like samples, like drums and stuff. So check it out if it's useful for your production and let me know in the comments what you do for making grids, if you have any questions, if you want to see future tutorials, and see you in the next video.